All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Carrie Strader. I am the Study Abroad Advisor for the Luxembourg program at Miami University. So today we are going to do a family info session for families interested in the Luxembourg programs. We call them MUDEC. That stands for Miami University Doliboy European Center. So that is kind of the home base for our semester and summer programs over in Luxembourg. Okay, so just a few highlights of the program. A unique aspect of MUDEC is that it really is designed for lots of different students. Students from all majors may participate, and they can find classes that are designed around the global Miami plan. So that means that they can take care of some of those foundations. So we have classes that are pre-approved for creative arts, for humanities, intercultural perspectives. Global perspectives is a graduation requirement at Miami for 6 credits, and students who study abroad for a full semester will automatically complete that entire requirement. The classes are taught by a mix of Oxford-based faculty who go over on short-term appointments over to Luxembourg, and European faculty who actually are, local adjuncts who bring a unique perspective to teaching our students over in Luxembourg. The facility is completely operated by Miami. The facility is a castle, which is pretty amazing, and we have an on-site staff there that are readily accessible for our students. All of the courses are taught in English except for the language courses. So we offer French and German as second languages, and so if a student is in one of those languages and wants to continue at whatever level they're at, we can accommodate that, and students can also just try and take an intro-level course, and we do encourage that as well. Students stay with homestay families. So this is a unique piece of the MUDEC program. It promotes immersion and cultural exchange opportunities. Many of our homestay families have been working with Miami for 20, even 30, 40 years, sometimes 2 generations. So a lot of students find that that's a very special aspect of the program. MUDEC is a very cost-effective study abroad program, especially for a semester-long program in Europe. The tuition is roughly comparable to a semester on Oxford's campus, and all Miami institutional scholarships apply. So it's still the Miami bill. All of that is going to be the same. So study abroad advisors like myself, I'm also part of a team. We also have Jordan Land, who is the coordinator for this program. He is out of office today, so I'm giving the presentation on his behalf. But we are here in Oxford, happy to answer your calls, serve as a resource for any questions that your students may have, and we work with the student through the process to identify additional scholarships that they can apply for. So Luxembourg itself, very small country. It is sandwiched right in between France, Belgium, and Germany. As you can see here, it's a very, very multicultural, multilingual society. So Luxembourgers, those who are native to the country, often speak 3 languages absolutely fluently. They speak Luxembourgish at home often and learn German and French in school, although we also have large populations of Portuguese immigrants, Italians, so it really is a melting pot, very international. It's a very prominent country in terms of international finance and lots of business, very, very robust economic sector, which presents exciting opportunities for our students, especially when they're looking at internships, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We also have a lot of history. So the castle, like I said, the chateau as we call it, dates from the 15th century. So it's very, very historic and just absolutely a uniquely European experience. So the castle is located in the city of Differdange, which is a medium-sized town, and Miami has been there for 50 years. So this past October in 2018, we had 700 alumni go back to Luxembourg to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the program. So your student would be joining in a great Miami tradition. The academics in Luxembourg are designed around the Miami plan requirements. So students can earn up to 16 credit hours during the semester and 9 during the summer. The summer program is designed to complete an entire thematic sequence in one summer. You can also do that easily in one semester. But then, again, you can also apply the classes to different graduation requirements. We do offer advising for registration. So, at the beginning of the process, when the student just starts to look at the program and through, actual commitment to the program and looking at registering for specific classes, we do have one-on-one sessions for that to help with the process. Like I said, many of the courses are pre-approved from Miami Plan Foundations. It's all Miami credit. So that offers a great convenience that I think is appealing to many, many students. There's no, petition process, no transfer credit. It's all Miami classes. You know exactly how it's going to apply to the student's degree plan. Like I said before, global perspectives will automatically be fulfilled. And then depending on major, your student may also be able to take classes in their major. So we often have many political science classes, history. For students in the Farmer School of Business, it's a great fit. We offer 2 core business classes every semester. And during the summer, it's kind of a rotating group of professors that come in. So every summer, there's different classes offered. And these are all available on our website, which I'll direct you to as a resource a little bit further on. So we design this program as a very immersive experience. So we want students to get outside of the classroom and experience European society. One unique aspect of the program is our study tour course. So this is a class where students actually all take a week-long field trip with their faculty member and their classmates to another European country. So they're there and immersed in the topic of the course, and it includes lots of experiential learning. So that is something that we really are strong on with this program. Students can do an independent study focused on their personal academic interests. So even if, say a student is a kinesiology or nutrition major and we don't have a class for that major that semester, that student can still design their own independent study and possibly even still get credit in that department here at Miami with a sponsoring faculty in Oxford who directs kind of some independent work while they're in Luxembourg. The photo here is from a student who is an education major working in a Luxembourgish school, which is one of our most popular independent studies. We also have a student faculty council, which is a group of about 8 to 9 students who take on a leadership role within the community. So we have about 80 to 100 students every semester at MUDEC, and so this group really provides just leadership. They start community events, community service. They meet with the dean of the program. They meet with the faculty. They're really a representative for the other students of the program, and so it's a great leadership opportunity. We also have an exciting summer internship program where students can be placed in different European companies, organizations, no matter what their area of study. So we have connections with everything from theater and art to finance to marketing, really whatever the student is interested in, history. We have really great local connections. Students can also volunteer in the local community, and there are some of those options that even bear credit. There is you can do independent studies that include service learning as well. So just student life in general. We really think that the host family experience is a unique and robust part of the program. So like I said, it's been this way for 50 years. It's a unique aspect of this program. Most host families do welcome more than 1 student. It's common for them to have 2, 3, sometimes even 4 students in the same home, which can be a comfort to the various Miami students as well. And it's a nice way to just get to know European life as more than a tourist. I'll talk about travel in a little bit, but travel is definitely encouraged in our program, but we also want students to have a nice grounding in their host country of Luxembourg as well, and we think the families help with that. We also take students' needs and preferences into account, absolutely. We have an intricate placement process. Once a student is committed to the program, they will fill out a questionnaire about their housing preferences, needs, any allergies, medical concerns, things like that are absolutely taken into account. So travel, a very exciting aspect of the program, definitely a big draw for our students. Luxembourg is a great location to explore Europe. So you are really close to train lines, buses. Luxembourg City has its own, major airport all throughout Europe. We also offer free discovery tours. So these are usually on Fridays. Fridays, students do not have classes, so it's a unique opportunity to explore. But the discovery tours take place on Fridays, and they usually go by neighboring countries. So students will go maybe on an hour or 2 train ride but it is subsidized by generous alumni donations, and so often these trips that go to, say Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, are completely free of cost for the students on Fridays, which is a really nice, cost-effective way to explore. And then we also have our staff in Oxford, myself included, and the staff on site who are experienced in traveling throughout Western Europe, and we're happy to give tips, recommendations, not just Western Europe, Eastern Europe as well, all over the continent, to help keep students safe, to let them have fun, and to explore while they're there and make the most of the experience. So next steps, if your student is interested in applying to either the semester program of Luxembourg or the summer program. Like I said, for the semesters, we welcome about 80 to 100 students each semester. We do recommend starting the process about 2 semesters ahead of time. When do students go to Luxembourg? It really depends. The program is becoming more and more popular with sophomore students, for the reason being that many of the classes, like I said, are Miami plan focused, which can be a great fit for sophomore students looking to fulfill general graduation requirements. Sophomore students also can fulfill their on-campus housing requirement by living in Luxembourg, which is funny, but is definitely a pro for going sophomore year. That being said, we have plenty of juniors and senior students as well, so it really just depends on your student's personal academic plan. But we do recommend preparing 2 semesters in advance, and then the deadlines are typically the semester ahead of time. The summer is on a little bit of a shortened timeline, so the deadline is not till April 1st at the latest for this summer, so you have students who still have time to apply, absolutely. February 15th is kind of our target date for that summer deadline as well. The fall deadline is April 1st, and the spring deadline is October 1st. So that kind of gives you a general idea. And it is an entirely online application process. We do require, as part of the application, that your student come in and meet with one of the advisors for the program. It's just a great way to answer questions, talk about what the program is, see if it would be a good fit. So that's part of it, but they can start that application before they come in as well. So we have that link right there on miamioh.edu/Luxembourg. You can also go to miamioh.edu/studyabroad, which is our general study abroad site. But I would encourage you to check out the website as well. There is lots of great resources. We recently updated it, so it has lots of great up-to-date information for all kinds of audiences. Okay, so that is the end of the formal part of the presentation. So please send in any questions that you may have, and I will just take a minute here to gather these together and answer any of those questions that you might have. Thank you. All right, I am back here. So the first question that came in is about the students' commute from their host families to the chateau for classes. So that is a great question. Luxembourg is a small country, but sometimes the host families are a little bit spread out. They are not all in the city of Differdange, and neither are they all in the city of Luxembourg. So many of them are in between. The max distance via public transportation that a student could be away would probably be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour on the train or bus. That is, I would say, on the top end of the spectrum. So many of those students who do have that further commute are in Luxembourg City, and oftentimes students request to be in Luxembourg City due to, it's the capital city, there's more places to go, better restaurants, things like that. Some students kind of prefer being in the city. It is more convenient for public transportation. Your flights and trains are going to be out of Luxembourg City anyway. So that's the kind of top end of the commute. Some students are in the city of Differdange and walk to the chateau. And then most students are somewhere in between. So typically it is anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes of a commute from the host families, and the students are generally doing that commute Monday through Thursday, as there are no classes on Fridays. We had another question about the architecture program. So that is a unique aspect for architecture students. They can kind of do this customized program where they take some studios, they take architecture-specific classes. They're kind of a specialized cohort. That is absolutely a program that we offer. It is currently only in the fall semester, and the students do go through a application process with the architecture department in addition to our general application process for the program. So I would encourage the student to either come in for an advising session with us or talk to some of the architecture faculty if they'd like to know more specifically about the ins and outs of the architecture cohort in Luxembourg. A question about host families came in, specifically meal plans. So this is detailed. I'd encourage you again to look at the Luxembourg site, and we have a finances tab, and that shows exactly what is covered in the tuition and fees. For host families specifically, host families provide breakfast in the mornings, and that is the only meal that they are required to provide. So they provide breakfast in the mornings and then lunch Monday through Thursday. So every day that students have class at the castle, lunch is provided. So this nice photo here, actually the background of the Q&A page is the dining area of the castle. So students have lunch there, and then dinner is on your own. So some students do save money through dinner. We do have a full kitchen in the basement of the chateau. It's called the Cave. It's kind of the student hangout area. We do have a large kitchen there where students can cook their own meals, and students will often cook together or go out to eat in the surrounding area. There was some concern. I heard a question about host families maybe not providing the adequate amount of food or the agreed upon amount of food. That is something that we have a full-time homestay coordinator, and so concerns like that, if they do come up, they're rare, but if they do, then the student will address it with a homestay coordinator who often has personal ties with the family, will speak to the family directly and resolve that situation. Same with any kind of, conflict or situation that might come up. Another question was about restrictions on when families can come visit. So maybe you want to see the program for yourself, explore Europe with your student. We think that's great. We don't have specific restrictions. That being said, there are certain times that we would encourage parents to come. So we personally think that the end of the study abroad program is the perfect time to come. That way the student is not thinking about homework, there's less restrictions, they're not trying to miss class. So usually at the end of the program is an ideal time, but then there also is a week-long break. So if you're talking about in the semester programs, there is a week-long break in the fall as well as the spring. So that is a good time for the parents to come as well if that works out. The only time that would be really not ideal for the parent to come would be during the study tours. So those are also on the calendars on our website. They're usually the week before the break, and the study tour is an academic experience, and the students get 1 credit hour for going on that study tour and fully participating that whole week. So that is not an ideal time for the family to be there. So that is just all I would recommend in terms of travel. Someone asked about a workout facility at the chateau. Unfortunately, we do not have one. That would be very nice. But for students who are interested in working out, there is a local gym in Differdange called Aqua Sud. It is a very, very nice facility. I've been there before, and the students do get a discounted rate to join that gym. So that's something that lots of students will do, or if a student lives in a different town, they will maybe join a gym in the town that their host family lives in. And someone asked about Miami provided housing. So in a kind of traditional dorm sense, no. The host family is the option for housing, but that being said, it is all overseen and run by Miami as well. So another question was about just the benefits of study abroad in general. So absolutely, especially in regards to a student's kind of future in being able to secure internships, secure jobs. This is something I can speak on from a personal perspective. I studied abroad for a semester when I was an undergraduate. I went to Paris myself, and I found that experience has absolutely helped me professionally, especially at the beginning. We encourage students to study up on interview questions ahead of time. And so for me personally, almost every interview I've been in before, there is a experience-based question, tell me about a time that you worked with someone different from yourself. And the kind of soft skills that students can learn when they're studying abroad, whether it's, being dropped in a new country, in a new city, not having maybe Google Maps on your phone, just being able to figure out how to navigate with a paper map, things like that, being adaptable, thinking on your feet, all of these things are really useful in the workplace no matter where you are, no matter what field you're trying to go into. That being said, this is something that has actually been studied. We do have an article on our main study abroad site about the benefits of study abroad on your first salary out of college. So there was a study that said it was, I think 55, I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me, but it was more than half of employers would consider giving a higher starting salary to students who studied abroad than those who didn't. And so in our globalized time, it is definitely something that helps students professionally. Okay, so there are some more specific questions from a parent who has a student who is going on the program this semester. So those, I would encourage you to either email Jordan Land, the coordinator. His email is landjm. I have it up here on the screen. Email Jordan with those specific questions, or also attend the webinar that is a little bit more specific, designed for the families who have students going to Luxembourg this semester. So Jordan is going to email out information about that webinar and an invitation to those parents. So please keep an eye out for that. A question about transportation. So how do students arrange their transportation to Luxembourg from the U.S.? It is independent travel. That being said, students often do fly together, even if they don't necessarily have a friend that's going on the program that they know ahead of time. We do have a Facebook group for the students who are going, and oftentimes they will say, hey, who else is flying out of Chicago? And Luxembourg is such a specific destination, such a small country, that often the students who are flying over end up being on the same flight without even planning it. So that is something, too. We also are happy to offer, travel booking tips, things like that. If students come in, we are happy to look over things like that with them. Okay, and then a question about the weekend trips that are already arranged. So yes, there are what we call, discovery tours are the free weekend trips that are arranged by the Miami staff on site. Most of them are day trips on Fridays. There is one that is over the weekend that goes to Paris. So they can sign up for a full weekend in Paris. They get transportation to and from the chateau. Their hotel is paid for. I believe they also get a ticket to the ballet, and it is still subsidized. So all of that experience, I think, comes for 130 euros. That is the only discovery tour that has a cost associated with it, but it is still heavily subsidized. For a weekend in Paris, that is still a really great deal for the students, and students often find that that's one of their favorite memories from the program. So those discovery tours are, I would say, about every other weekend, and then otherwise students are going on what we call independent travel. So oftentimes they will book these trips together to, usually starting out with closer by cities like Brussels, Paris, Cologne in Germany, places like that, and then students will also, over the course of the semester, book their own travel to other European countries. So that's definitely something that is a popular aspect of the program and that we are happy to provide advice for. Yes. A question, again, so this kind of is on the theme of travel, about safety and overall security in Europe. So that is a very valid question. So obviously our student safety is of highest priority to us, and Miami has a full-time risk management team that assesses situations not only in Europe but around the world for student safety. So that is something that we highly prioritize, and in our orientations, we really do try to give students a crash course in, traveling, keeping yourself safe, situational awareness, all of these things. The State Department, says that Europe is safe for, travel. There are specific country pages that you can look at. All of that information is on the State Department website. We encourage you and students to look at that. They do have specific tips for specific countries, so that is a great resource. We also do encourage students to register with the State Department, so it's called STEP, the Smart Travelers Enrollment Program. So that is essentially you register your passport number with the State Department and let them know that you'll be in these various European countries for X number of time, X number of days, X number of months, and then you do get safety and security alerts for those locations if there is a situation happening. So that is a free service from the State Department. We definitely encourage, and we encourage students to, take ownership of their experience, read up on those resources, and we're absolutely happy to talk about any of that. A question about the international finance class specifically, but more just about experiential learning. So the parent asked, do students get exposure to any international businesses while they're taking an international finance class, for example? Absolutely. So we do heavily involve field trips and site visits in our education over in Luxembourg. So not only that 1 week-long study tour trip. So I actually recently staffed a study tour trip that was an economics class. It was macroeconomics. We went to Prague in the Czech Republic, and we went and visited 3 or 4 different businesses, different Czech businesses that week. And it was a really great hands-on experience for the students, talking about the Czech economy with, professionals who are really in the thick of it. And so that is absolutely something that we prioritize. And so whether it's, a business class or art, going to museums, things like that, we definitely prioritize getting out of the classroom and getting that exposure. And for students who really want to maximize that, again, the independent study during the semester is a great option, or looking at doing a summer internship in, an area of their choice. Another question about travel: how much to generally budget for travels outside of the Miami Arranged trips? So $3,000 to $5,000 is what was kind of heard. That is generally what we would say. A lot of the out-of-pocket travel costs, again, obviously, it depends on your own student and their travel habits, their budgeting, things like that. If you are trying to save money, I think you can certainly go as low as $2,000 for, multiple weekend trips in Europe. And, it can easily also go up to $5,000. So a lot of that depends on the student, but I would say that $3,000 to $5,000 is a pretty solid ballpark. On our website, the Finances tab of the Luxembourg website has a great, really, really comprehensive cost list, and we have it split into sections A, B, and C, where section A is what you're actually billed for by Miami, B is additional expenses, and then C is out-of-pocket expenses. So that estimates really kind of including that independent travel, things like that. So I would definitely go and look at section C there, but that is, yes, generally what we would recommend. All right, and then one last question here, unless feel free to throw in a couple more if you're still here. So how do students get textbooks? That's a very good question. What we do not recommend is buying all of your textbooks here in the U.S. and either shipping them over or bringing them in your backpack, because that is a good way to pay lots of fees, whether it's baggage fees from the airline or, customs fees, shipping fees associated with that. So students do a couple different things. Sometimes our students who are leaving the program, so say your student is going in the fall semester, at the end of spring semester, the Student Faculty Council will organize a Google Doc with students who are trying to sell their books to the following group. So that is a great way to get cheap books. It's very sustainable. They just stay in the chateau. For the students who purchase those books, they can handle the payment amongst themselves, and then the book is waiting for the student when they arrive. So that is a great option. Lots of students will also look at Amazon in the UK or in Germany, Luxembourg as well, but that's just a smaller catalog generally. So they'll look at Amazon in some of those European countries where the shipping is much less to Luxembourg. And then students can get things shipped to the chateau. So that is generally how students would get their textbooks. So another question was to repeat the name of the State Department program. So that is STEP, STEP. It stands for Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. So if you just search that, that should take you to the State Department site. There's lots of great resources on there. They even have a Students Abroad section of their website with specific safety and security reminders for that population. So we definitely recommend checking that out as well. A few more questions rolling in here. So one parent asked, how do we know the dates to book flights for the summer sessions? So again, I would recommend, because we've had people in the past make mistakes accidentally booking flights and then, you have to pay to change. I would definitely recommend looking at the calendars on the website. That is always going to be the official information source, and we are happy to, feel free to call and double check that as well. So the dates for the summer program that are on there are the dates that you should be booking for. Keeping in mind that if you are leaving from the U.S. to Europe, you generally are arriving the next morning in Europe. So if it says, the program starts May 21st and you arrive in Europe May 21st, then you want to book a flight for May 20th out of the U.S. And that's something, again, we're happy to double check and confirm for you. Another question is about the host family. So if students are alone in the host family experience or if they are housed with other students. So I would say about 75 to 80% of students are with another Miami student in the same home. If your student has someone that they know that they are going with, a friend or maybe, a friend of a friend even, and they want to live together, if they mutually request each other on the housing form, almost always that is something we can accommodate. So they can request specific roommates, and if not, we do have that intricate placement process. If a student prefers to be alone, that's totally great too, and so they can mark that down. In terms of preferences, we do really take that into account. Students can also request living closer to the chateau if they really don't kind of want that commute in the morning. Students also sometimes request living in Luxembourg City. So these are all things that we take into consideration for the best experience of the students. Okay, so that wraps up. Okay. So one last question, sorry. The website says that there is no ATM, but how do students get cash? So we don't have an ATM at the Chateau, per se, but there are multiple ATMs and banks throughout every town in Luxembourg and throughout Europe. So for getting cash, what I recommend is actually bringing an American debit card, obviously having to tell your bank that you're going to be in Europe for the dates that you're going to be in Europe, otherwise they will block your account. But if your bank knows that, and keeping in mind your bank's specific, international transactions, over in Europe. So we don't necessarily recommend doing that for all purchases because then you would just be carrying around lots of euros. But that is kind of good for day-to-day purchases, and then virtually all credit cards work in Europe as well, and we have, some specific recommendations for those credit cards. American Express, for example, is not widely accepted in Europe, but most major, MasterCard, Visa, et cetera, is, and so we can give specific recommendations for that as well. And someone asked if there's any additional cost to a student living, alone in a homestay. If they're the only student in that homestay, no. Whether a student is with other students or by themselves with a family, it is the same housing cost. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you learned some things about the Luxembourg program. We are here as a resource. So again, Jordan and I's contact information is here. My name is Carrie Strader. I'm the advisor for this program, and then Jordan Land is the coordinator for the Luxembourg program. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to chat with you, encourage your students to come in, and chat with us about the program, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.